Good evening. Tonight we're working on the 4L80E, and I would like to show you a little trick I learned about installing the fourth clutch housing and piston seals. If you've read in the ASTG manual, they state it's almost impossible to install these seals without using a special tool. The special tool, if you go ahead and look online, costs anywhere from $100, $200, $300 or more, which is simply ridiculous for a little task like this. So I went ahead and thinking about this over a couple days and actually found out a pretty easy method on installing these seals if you take some time. You could do it in 5 minutes. I've actually, since I've learned this new technique, have never ripped a seal, so I want to go ahead and share it with everyone so you don't have to waste your hard-earned money on buying a seal tool that you might use once, twice. Instead, you could go ahead and maybe use some stuff laying around the house to install this seal and save your money for other upgrades on your transmission. So here we go. First step is we go ahead and grab our seals and go ahead and you want to go ahead and coat them in some assembly lubes. The assembly lube will go ahead and lubricate it so it'll be easier to apply. When you're installing these, as the directions from the AST guide suggest, you want to make sure that the seal and the lip of the seal, when you're installing it, is actually facing towards the piston bore, meaning the lip will be facing downward when the piston bore is oriented in this direction. And we'll go ahead and slip it in there just like that. Make sure it's nice and smoothly, evenly distributed within the bore. Alright, that wasn't too bad. So the next step is to go ahead and put in the piston seal. And when you do that, you want to as well make sure that it is facing downward from the top. So essentially what we have here are the piston lips on both seals are facing each other when they're assembled together. And you want to make sure it's not twisted. You got plenty of assembly lube on it as well. And good to go. Next step. I'm going to go ahead and take my piston, go ahead and throw it in the freezer. One of the tricks I've learned while rebuilding transmissions in the last year is the freezer and the stove are your friends. It's all about the physics. By putting in the freezer, the seal will go ahead and shrink along with aluminum as well to a little bit, so it'll be easier to go ahead and install. Now the next step is after that's done freezing, I go ahead and take this here tail house unit for a 4L80E. This is for a two-wheel drive. I have it left over because I converted my Avalanche from a 4L60E to a 4L80E, and Avalanche is four-wheel drive, of course, so I don't have any need for this. What am I going to use this for? And I'll show you. I use this to support the fourth clutch piston board, just like that. Once the piston's done freezing a little bit, I'll just go ahead and take it out now. You can go ahead and apply this inward. And what I do here is then I flip it upside down, and you'll notice the fourth clutch is being supported from the inside. That way it leaves the outside free. What I do then is I take a 4/1000 feeler gauge. I've experimented with different sizes, and 4/1000 seems to work perfectly. And what I do is I gently insert it between the piston bore housing and the piston. And what I do is, as I go around, I try to make sure that I don't force it too much. So what I do is 180 degrees to where I'm trying to get the gasket inside the piston house area. I press towards the feeler gauge. And then you will feel, as you can see, the lip is made it past, and it's just gently inside the piston, which is perfect. Next step. You want to go ahead and pick up the housing and piston such that you're still applying pressure on the piston, so that when you flip it over, it's still seated. Alright, then you can go ahead and hold it from the outside on the piston bore. Alright, now take your direct drum and go ahead and sit the fourth housing on top. And now we're going to do just like we did on the reverse side. I'm going to apply pressure on the inside away from, and go ahead and gently let that lip slip past the housing. You know, sometimes it'll get stuck, so you want to go ahead and work it from both sides. Just be gentle. Apply more pressure over here and just kind of push it in there. Alright? You want to do this all the way around. Just be careful about it. You don't want to force it or cut it. 4/1000 feeler gauge, I have found, really is not sharp enough because of the thickness to really cut the lip of your seals. So look at that. Now what we have now are both seals passed on both sides. Last step. Go ahead and push down, and look at that, slipped right in. Perfect. So go ahead and take that money, buy yourself a beer. Why not? Go ahead and send me a beer. And by the way, go Cleveland Cavs! Alright, I guess I celebrated a little early there. So now I take the fourth housing after I have a beer. It'll make the job go easier. Take your fourth housing, go ahead and take that tail shaft extension again, flip it back over, make sure that you apply pressure so it doesn't slip out. You don't want to start it over again. Yay! You started the basket! Okay, that's my son all excited. Alright, and then go ahead and put your spring on, and then finally the snap ring. Alright, so you can go ahead and apply pressure downward. This is the same way I removed it. And with this, you want to make sure you get the snap ring halfway between two of the locking flange on the spring, but you can always adjust that later. And you just kind of go around. Oh, careful there. And engage it. Just like so. And ta-da, it's in. I like to make sure I make the opening of the snap ring midway so that it does travel by some miracle. Won't go anywhere, but that's all personal preference, so there you go. It's all together. Have a good night.